Saints Talk listeners, we back for another episode of Saints Talk, the official podcast of NewOrleans.Football. Make sure you guys are going to NewOrleans.Football /subscribe. Pick a tier that works best for you. There's a few different options. I would recommend the elite level. Make sure you rate the pod 5-star on iTunes. That helps a lot. Make sure you follow NewOrleans.Football on Instagram. Check out the site this week. Alvin Kamara is the best offensive player in the NFL. Got a hot take on there. Marcus Davenport he's coming and had an effect. So Nick wrote about that. He watched the film on him and saw how he was doing. And also the Saints signed. They traded for a new player, Kwon Alexander. So first thing he did was start putting on a bunch of film, and I got a bunch of text messages about it. Next thing you know, an article popped up because that's how these things work. So make sure you guys go check out the site. The rundown is on there. Drew Brees and his 2-minute drill, how efficient he is with that. I tweeted that I think he's the best ever at that. Hot take. But everything is there, man. There's a ton of good content on the site this week. Make sure you guys are subscribed. Make sure you guys check it out. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Anything you can do, any support that you can give, we appreciate it. We're here to talk football. Nick, what's up?
Bucks, man. Week 9. Week 9 kind of feels like week 1. Because it kind of feels like the season is just starting. You got Mike Thomas probably coming back, at least closer to coming back than he has since week 1. Emmanuel Sanders is coming back, so it's going to be interesting, man. It's taken a little bit. It's been a weird year, and it just kind of feels like the season's been on pause. And in a way, like every week kind of feels like the same week where they're kind of like spinning their wheels a little bit and trying to figure these things out. But it kind of feels like, they should get unlodged from the mud now. And now's the time to start really looking at the season.
Now's the time. So let's get into it. We're going to start with the linebacker that the Saints traded for, Kwon Alexander. So I guess no one can complain about LSU, right? That's kill that narrative. I saw your tweet about it. I was like, ooh.
Someone queued me in this week. I had no idea. I guess Will Clapp went to Benson's high school or something. So they kind of counted it like it wasn't an LSU player that they got a player from Benson's high school. So it wasn't like a pure. So that somehow the Will Clapp drafting like became disqualified within this conspiracy theory in the more radical segments of the populace that believes in this. And that was like complete news to me. It's just like, all right, whatever. But look, Kwon's here, Will Clapp's here. I don't know, man. It feels like it's over. They got 2 of them. That's a good amount. That's
a good amount. That's enough. So you wrote about the signing. So make sure you guys go to the site, NewOrleans.Football, and look at the film study that Nick wrote about him and some of his traits, some of his attributes, some of the things he's good at, some of the things he maybe struggles with. Some videos on there. Just go check it out. It's a good read. But just what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about the signing? Right? Was it the right move? Was it the wrong move? There's some salary implications. Like, how do you feel about the move holistically?
Yeah, first thing first, like I do feel like it was a solid place to make a trade. I know some people were a little bit surprised that they went and got a linebacker.
Yeah.
So just kind of starting there, I don't think that getting a cornerback, like how do you integrate a cornerback into the defense? Like, who's he replacing? What's the path to play?
Yeah, you bring in a player with less talent and you bench a player that's more talent with the hope that you maybe get more consistency. But
so like if you could net Gilmore or something, sure, go get Gilmore and he's in your defense for the next 2 or 3 years until his decline comes to a point where
exactly.
I think the issue with the secondary is getting everybody on the same page, teaching them everything they need to do, and then getting them up to speed. I don't think it's a talent deficiency issue. So if you can do that, you're good. Like, just figure it out. Get Marcus Williams to play well. Get everybody to play well. Get, your matchup corners to match up and to play how they need to play.
Yeah.
So you bring in someone else, you kind of got to dumb things down. Like if you're going to dumb it down, just dumb it down for the guys you have. Get them up to speed. So
and you fix the problem there with the talent that you have in the house. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And you aren't giving anything up. So
yeah,
I could have seen a safety, especially like if you could have traded for a safety, you bring in a safety, maybe you bring them in, and then like that's a long-term move. But even that is still a little bit weird. Defensive line, I don't know if the players out there that's really gonna. If you could have got one, great. I just don't think
interior guy, if anything, that would have been
maybe
the place I would look. If I had to pick one, right? If I had to pick, a spot, that would have been a good place to go.
Yeah, especially with the Rankins injury too. But like realistically, like the difference maker probably wasn't there. Like linebacker wasn't a shock to me. Like I didn't look at the defense and think, wow, like they can't bring anybody in next to Demario Davis that's going to be better than what they have. That kind of seems like an obvious spot on the roster.
Yeah,
and maybe it doesn't get highlighted enough because you don't notice the other players, and that's the problem, that we aren't talking about the other linebackers because it's just kind of like they make plays, but it's nothing remarkable.
Like the bunch of Jags, kind of, right? I mean, I hate to use that term, but that's nothing stands out about it. I mean, and just to that point, I'm glad you brought it up. What do you think it says about? For one, I think we kind of know what it says about Anzalone, right? They brought in someone to compete with him at his will linebacker spot, right? And that's the signing, right? That's what it is. And Anzalone, I mean, you got to look at that trade and say, all right,
you're on notice.
Yeah, you're on notice, right? What does this say about Bond? Like, how did you perceive this move as it relates to him?
I didn't even really think about him. He wasn't even really in my initial thoughts of it, really. I mean, I just don't like they play two different positions. He's a developmental player. I think that you can probably look at him and wish that he was playing more, that he was producing more. But I think we're at the point in the season where it's just kind of like, he's there. And if he look, even before the season, like that was kind of our conversation about him, is that he's on the team if he contributes as a plus. But like, I don't know if you're going into the year counting on him to do anything. Now, it's a long-term pick. You drafted an edge rusher and you're making him off the ball linebacker.
Big change.
If he came in and was dominating and making all kinds of plays day one, that would have been outrageous. But
yeah.
It's, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I don't take it as a commentary on him. I think Kwon Alexander's a one-year player, really. You brought him in on the contract he's on. I don't see you. Basically, you got to make the decision to renew it next year because you can walk away pretty much scot-free, $2 million charge when you do the offset from Kiko. So he's on the team for now. And I think if you want to keep him, you renegotiate. There's no way you're paying him. I don't know what it is next year. It's like a $13 million.
I think it's like 12 and a half, $13 million. Yeah,
there's no way you're paying that. So I don't see this as anything like, well, Zach Bond's not, like, they play a different position. I think eventually, like, they mentioned Bond being a middle linebacker.
Yeah, I think they see him as a Mike and a Sam.
So, I mean, I guess ideally, like, he would have came in, dominated, made this switch. Everything would have been seamless. You take an edge rusher and now he's your starting middle linebacker. It's an unrealistic scenario, but I'm just saying, like, if it played out, he's there. Then you have Demario off the ball in the spot he played and was an all-pro at. Instead, Demario's playing in the middle. You got another guy that's going to play Will. And, I think it's all right. And I think the acquisition of Kwon Alexander in some ways might also help Demario Davis do a little bit more. He's a great blitzer, and I don't think he's being held back in the blitz. But I think if you have somebody else that you trust to cover and maybe to do some of these different things, it frees him up to do a little bit more of that. And now you're talking about manufacturing pass rush without Sheldon Rankins, you're gonna have to do that a little bit more, and maybe that helps Demario a little bit to get unleashed a little bit more in that aspect of the game.
Yeah. I think that's a fair take. It's one of the things, and as weird as this may sound, one of the guys that I thought about when I saw the signing was Janoris Jenkins, right? Because they bring in this guy with, a little bit of pedigree, kind of into the season. And, you kind of see what happens, right? And I know it's not a one-to-one. They definitely don't play the same position. I think you could maybe make a case that corner was a bigger need when they traded for Jenkins slightly, or, however you feel about it. But, that's one move that it made me think about. I did think that, this was, like I said, it wasn't as much on Bond as it was on Anzalone. I mean, it's not ideal, right? Ideally, you would have liked Bond to come in, be great at middle linebacker, move Davis to Will, and right, then you're set at the position. But I don't think that was realistic. So I'm interested to see the move. He's not going to play this week. His first game will probably be, I think he couldn't clear the COVID protocols, which, 2020. But,
It's 5 days. Yeah, I mean, it'd be hard for him to play. I don't know when he actually arrived. I think he was, I want to say, there's a lot going on this week in the world. I want to say I saw a tweet with him flying. Was it yesterday or Monday? It would have been yesterday, Tuesday.
Okay, I saw who that. That's all. That's all I saw. I just know he's locked in, right? I mean,
I might be imagining it, but I swear I saw like a picture of feet in a suitcase at an airport of him yesterday coming here. So, man, he got out of there right before this. Hopefully, he's in the clear. That they have a little COVID outbreak there in San Francisco too.
Okay. Yeah, tell him to.
Well, I mean, he won't even get through the door. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, he's got to.
You go and test, you go away. Someone was asking me like, hey, like they test every day. Why can't he just keep testing? Because like, look, you're traveling, you're getting on a flight.
Yeah,
you're going into these situations.
It's not that simple.
Yeah, and you need to like if you caught something like that's a very good example. Even if it's like a private, like something could happen there, and you need to make sure that like you're not bringing the outside thing into this building into their protocol. So. I mean, it's just the way it is at this point.
And it takes time you could be spreader and not even test positive, right? So yeah, I mean, it makes sense why he's not playing. So we get that. And, this is a complicated defense in some ways, right? They do a lot. So I just think coming in after a couple of practices and just playing, even now, he's going to be somewhat limited. It's going to take him a few games to hit his stride, for what he's going to bring to this team. So you're going to probably see him maybe in a reduced snap count to start. If he comes in as he's starting from day one, he's even really smart at Anzalone. He's a lot worse than we thought he was. But I just think you're going to see him, just kind of come on, little by little. So on the field, what does he bring, right? What is it? What are his strengths, as it relates to this defense? What is he going to give them that maybe they don't have now? And so how do you see that part of the signing?
I mean, one of the very first plays I watched was I went to the Green Bay game and like honestly, I just like started clicking random plays and then like I eventually watched everything he did. But like one of the very first plays I saw was him defending a bootleg against Green Bay, and it was just like, oh, well, they can.
You can't draw this. You can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, it's like, oh, all right, this makes a whole lot of sense. Like it was very quick. It took me like 3 minutes to like find the play where it's like, oh, okay, this is where he's a little bit different.
Did you finish the article and say, okay, it's just
so that made it pretty easy. But look, I think that's the thing he does is he plays really well in space. I think his coverage is pretty good. I mean, it's not necessarily like always perfect, but he has enough range and athleticism. Like even when he's out of position or when he's not doing the right thing, he can recover from it or make.
He looks natural in space, definitely. Yeah.
I think he's very good in coverage. I'm just saying there were a couple of plays. Like I'm not like the way I worded that is weird, but like there were a couple of plays where you see him doing things that weren't perfect, but like the recovery is very notable, and that helps. Like not everything's always going to be perfect. So when things aren't perfect, you need to be able to recover. The tackling's an issue. I think that's probably the reason he's available along with his health is that, he's good for, it's gotten a little bit better over the years, but I mean, it's still not good. Like he's going to miss a tackle every game. And for the sake of comparison, last year, Demario Davis, I think missed 6. So, I mean, when you're a high level tackler like that versus missing, I want to say Kwon missed like 11 in 8 games last year or something like that. Yeah. So,
I think that's what it was.
Yeah. So it's something that you gotta, work on. But the thing with him is like on some of those plays, the range is a double-edged sword because it's like he's rushing and gets in position to make a play, then he doesn't make it. But look, that's kind of like the thing we talked about, like Marcus Williams when he was covering well last year, like he was getting in position to make plays and then wouldn't make. But that's not an excuse, especially for a lot. Like if you're going to close into the flat as a linebacker, you got to do something. Like you can't just whiff on the tackle. Like if you can get a hand on somebody, you can't just miss. So
right. You got to at least slow the guy down until you get some population to the football, right?
Yeah, and I might be punishing Kwon now because like Marcus Williams has some of the same things, and now he's having a bad season. But like, there's no excuse for it. So he's going to have to tackle a little bit better. But I think he's going to be good at. It's a solid addition. It's a 5th round pick, a guy that was hurt.
5th-round pick too, right? So yeah.
So you sent a day 3 pick and an injured player for essentially another injured player who's coming off that injury. Kwon's been out with a high ankle sprain, who has more talent. I'm not going to say the word upside at this point because I think he kind of just is who he is. But I mean, there is, I think in the run game, when he reads, reacts, makes the play, like he can be explosive and light someone up. There are times where he over pursues, and things like that. But I think overall he's, again, this is a guy they traded for a 5th-round pick for, so it's not like he's going to be a perfect player. There are things about his game that are,
there's a reason he's available.
Yeah,
right.
But I think he can be really good in the system. I do.
Yeah, and they've been trying to trade him, so I mean, clearly something's going on there. But I mean, I would say look at Janoris Jenkins, right? I'm going back to him, but he was someone that I guess kind of had, I guess his reputation maybe had fallen off a little bit, and he's someone that came in last year and played well, right, for all intents and purposes. And even to this day, I mean, things aren't going great, but for a number 2 corner, you can do a lot worse, right? And so
I think he can get better this year too. I do.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's just some weird things going on, but I kind of see the same thing with Kwon Alexander. You could do better. I mean, you could do worse than what you have there with him, right? Because at the end of the day, Anzalone's still there, and I didn't see that as a glaring weakness, but it's an opportunity to get better. And I think I would say the final thing about that signing is that I view it as being pretty low risk. The first thing I thought about when I saw it was, I remember the contract that he signed. How much is that is the Saints are they going to absorb? And it's it's relatively low cap hit. And like you said, this is a late round pick. The Saints don't even. I mean, we know how they operate. They don't care about those late picks, man. It's just, I'm not trying to be funny, but they'll trade them away like they don't, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's like, come on, man, let me get them 3 picks and get up out of here. Early night UDFA season. So yeah, I'm cool with the signing. I like it. I'm interested to see how they're going to use them. What things they do schematically. I do think he's someone that you could probably play like some Mike with too, even though they say he's going to play Will. So I can see DeMario being freed up in some specific scenarios for specific matches when they like maybe one guy to do something over another. So yeah, it's an exciting signing, and we'll see what happens. All right. The Saints are getting Mike Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders back supposedly this week. Definitely Sanders, because it was the COVID thing with him, and he had to, unfortunately he had to, miss some time in quarantine because he was symptomatic, and that changed things up a little bit. But Thomas was limited. He was limited today in practice. And so, if everything goes as planned, hopefully the Saints get back Emmanuel Sanders and Michael Thomas. And I think that's a big deal for the offense. And I'll let you start it off. Like, just offensively, what does this mean, right? This offense is kind of built around Mike Thomas, the passing game in a lot of ways. And then that guy's gone, and there's a lot of criticism there. So what do you expect, right? What does this mean? High level, how do you feel about this?
I mean, they're a 5-2 team that just basically traded for like one of the best wide receivers in the NFL at the deadline. It's a midseason acquisition. I think it's going to help them get a whole lot better. It's
optimistic.
That's
a good way to look at it, though. I like it. I was
they haven't had him.
They
haven't had him, man. Now he's got the rematch with Carlton Davis, who, I think we might have disrespected before because he's proven to be one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL right now. They have
I hope Mike is feeling a little insulted by that first game too. You need to hold a little. It needs to be a little bit of grudge there. I need to see some after the play antics.
I don't think Mike's going to need to look for any extra motivation the whole entire year. I think he's going to be right there. I don't think he needs to go find Devontae Parker and get in the Instagram beef to get himself hype.
They do. They don't like each other. I forgot about that.
I don't think he needs to search for anything. I think he's going to be motivated. I expect him to come back and just have something, I think he's going to have an edge to him the whole year.
He's still going for 150 catches.
Look, he's gonna put up his numbers too. That's the thing. I'm ready to see what he's gonna look like. I'm ready to see what the offense is gonna look like with him. Emmanuel Sanders, I made this comparison in an article that like, basically before like Mike was Saturn and Alvin was the rings. Like now they have two guys that are like basically can be the defining middle planet and other
Jupiter
people.
Now.
But you know what I mean? Like I feel like Alvin was kind of like the dressing on top of everything before, but like now he's central to it. Mike's central to it. Now Emmanuel Sanders is this guy that's kind of like, the decoration, the extra piece.
He's like Europa.
They're gonna be. You're over my head right now, but like they can be really, really good. And when they get all these guys going, everybody gets their touches. I just think everybody's at a new level. Mike comes back at the same level. It's gonna be hard, man. I don't know how you defend them.
Yeah. I want one of my science nerds to hit me up on Twitter about my little planet jokes, man. That's like my little bag. You just took me there. But I'm with you. The only thing that gives me some pause is hamstrings are weird and high ankle sprains are weird. So
he got extra time though.
With the high ankle sprain, yeah. With the hamstring, those things.
It was a 1 to 2 week. It's 2 weeks,
Yeah. And it was mild. I just need to see it. Right.
Yeah,
I guess.
I agree.
And then I think there may be an element of rust there too, right? I mean, he hasn't played since week 1. I think this whole team has experienced some form of rust as it pertains to like, it's taken them a while to get going this season, right? When you look at slow starts, offense didn't look good, defense still hasn't kind of caught up. I think the offseason and no preseason and COVID and no mini camps, OTAs, training camps, rookie mini camp, all that stuff. I think all of that had a lot to do with how the team started. And so I just don't want to discount the fact that that's something that Mike could be dealing with too. You can make a case that, maybe that's why Cam has had a slow start to the season. Is he getting up to speed now because of Davenport? Is it because he's finally hitting his groove? So I don't know. I just kind of look at that element. But back to Thomas, I do think that getting the best wide receiver in the NFL back is a big deal. It's a really big deal. And then getting one of the top, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 number 2 wide receivers in the NFL back is a big deal, right? Especially for an offense that at time has struggled, right? They'll put up points, then they'll go these quarter and a half and give up 21 straight points or whatever. I think they gave up 10 straight points to the Bears this past game, maybe more. I think it was 10. So yeah, I think getting them back is a big deal. And I think, hopefully it doesn't take much to get them up to speed, but it fundamentally changed the offense.
I think the one thing, and look, I think it's a very fair point to be cautiously optimistic about chemistry, rust, all that stuff, because that just is what it is. But I do think that one thing that might help him is that he's been practicing off and on for a while now. It isn't like he just showed up this week. So a little bit of that might be hedged. I think him and Drew probably have easy chemistry at this point. It's a little bit easier.
I think that's a bigger point. Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll see though. I mean, I do think that you got to get out there and get it going. I do think that, your point about the high ankle sprains is fair. I think if you look back, the history of players coming back from those, it's a little bit slow, and there's oftentimes, but I do think that him missing so much time is kind of takes you out of that danger zone a little bit. And I think it should help with it.
The hamstring helped the ankle sprain.
And the fight helped the ankle sprain. Like all of it played together though. It really did. It bought him 2 extra weeks, and then he ended up hurting the hamstring, and that got 2 more, so it did in a weird way, like getting into that fight at practice helped a little bit. And
shout out to CD Deuce.
Hey,
we know who fought it was after this last game.
And Mike even said himself that he was like kind of fighting through it, like he was fighting through it to try to get up to speed. And then he had, the thing happened in practice. So
yeah, that's when he was tweeting his feelings out. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I think it worked out in a weird way. We'll see, but like, he's got to come out and play. But I think they're going to be, I mean, man, they're winning these games. And if they, before the season, it was Super Bowl or bust. If they get to the Super Bowl, like when they make the documentary, like nobody's putting in any clips from these first 7 games. But like if they get there and they win it, like these 7 games are going to be like they develop so much character, so much grit, belief. I think a lot of that will pay off later in the season if this team gets its talent going the way it should.
Yeah, and I'll say this, right? I'll say this. I've been pretty critical of the Saints this year, right? And I try to call it like I see it. That's, but at the end of the day, they're a 5-2 team, right? So there's only, and I've always said you are what your record are, and they are a 5-2 team. Their schedule is advantageous this year. I think that's fair, but that's who you got to play. Their schedule is advantageous for the rest of this year. Bucks and Chiefs are the two toughest games. Everything after that, you got to think they'll be somewhat favored, right? And so, but I was listening to, I think it was Peter King's podcast, and he was talking about the Saints, and he said, he was just talking about how he was impressed by the fact that, you don't have Mike Thomas, then you go and you play, you have to play a game without Emmanuel Sanders and then without Callaway. And, he's basically saying, hey, the Bears, and Bears are a good defense, best third down defense in the NFL. Those guys are good, right? So you're not going against some slouches. And so to go up there and win in Chicago, and I just kind of put it in perspective, right? And I was like, okay, well, in my takes still stand, but I do think that at the end of the day, they're a 5-2 team, getting maybe someone, you can make a case that he's their best player, top 3 at least, getting him back, and like I said, getting Sanders back. And I just think that, and I'm segueing into the next topic here, I think it kind of gives you a much better outlook on the remainder of the season. You said it best at the top of the pod where you said the season kind of starts for the Saints. So how good do you think they can be based on, kind of what you think Mike is going to bring, what we've seen Emmanuel can do, and just kind of what they've shown you this year? Even Callaway coming back, maybe he takes over as the number 3 and he's effective. So what do you think getting these guys back, what does that do for the team going forward?
Well, look, before I answer this question, can we exist in a reality, like what's the like a top 12 defense the rest of the way? Like, is that the reality we're existing in?
The Saints?
Yeah. Is it fair to say that they get enough consistency?
They rank relatively high right now, right? I need to check.
Can they consistently be a team that holds other teams? Let's say that the rest of the season from here on out, like, are they holding teams with 23 or less points per game?
I think based on their schedule, they can do that.
And I'm not talking like these insane variances like last year where you have like the Jacksonville game and that whatever the other game was right next to it, where it's like, I'm saying like a legitimate, not like a 9-point game and then a 40-point game against the 40, like legitimately hovering around 23 points every game.
Yeah. I think based on the schedule, I think that's possible. I think that's possible.
I mean, if they do that and they become that team, I still think they can do everything they want to do. Like, I really do. I think if everything comes together, like everything, and I'm saying that knowing how bad the defense is, and like there's a lot to do to get to the Super Bowl or bust stuff they're talking about before the season.
Yep.
But I'm not at the point where I feel like it's so discouraging that they can't get there. Like, it's insane to be talking about this in November. These are like late September conversations. It's insane because like I'm kind of from like the Belichick school of thought that by like Thanksgiving in a typical year that you are who you are. And then from Thanksgiving on, that's basically it. I guess they got a few more weeks to get to Thanksgiving, but I think you stretch that window out a little bit. And if you can be rounding into form in December this year, I think you can. Like, I think it's a little bit different. I think everybody's fighting stuff right now. I don't think there's a lot of teams that are fully settled, and the ones that are. But I think that there's still a chance that, like, some of these teams that you're looking at around the league and you're like, I don't know, like, are they really that good? Like, they might end up actually being really that good. And the Saints might end up being one of those teams. They're without half their offense. I assume the offense is fine without all these players.
They're winning, man. They're winning. Like,
what are they going to do? Start scoring 60 points a game? Like, I doubt it, but like they'll start scoring like 33. And when they score 33 now, it's going to look like a 33 that you're like, oh, that was a good looking 33.
But they were putting up 33 like without Mike though. That's the crazy part.
It's an ugly 33 though. That's the thing.
I know.
Like you're paying with like a bunch of crumpled up 1s and 5s that were in somebody's sock. Like it's you're used to seeing the Saints like throw down $100 bill. Like they might get back to that. So, but still they were getting $100 either way. But yeah, I mean, it's the defense, man. And I just feel like that these players at some point are going to figure out how to execute their coverages. And maybe that's wrong. And maybe seeing 7 games of some of the stuff, I will say in this last game, like the big plays were just kind of getting beaten man, which you can kind of live with. I don't think
if you're a cornerback in the NFL, there's a lot worse things you can do than get beat by Allen Robinson, who's a top 5 wide receiver probably.
It's gonna happen. Yeah. So
he's just that good. Yeah, come on.
It's so those like it's seeing those plays in. Jenkins got beat by Mooney on one. Like a lot of people are getting beat by Mooney this year. So like that's not a huge deal. Like that's fine. Like you got beat by a burner on one play. It happened.
Yeah.
But like in the context of like, oh, here they go again, another big play. Those hit a little bit different. But I didn't see a lot of bad coverage busts in this game. There wasn't a lot of stuff that had you like kind of rolling your eyes, like, what are they doing? There were a couple things, but it wasn't as bad. So it's just like week by week, you're seeing some of these things eradicate. If they continue on that, I'm not at a place where I believe that they'll continue on that yet, but I see signs of it happening, and I'm not pessimistic to the point where I'm closed off to the possibility. I'm just kind of watching and seeing what happens. But like, I do think in 3 weeks' time when we're having this conversation, like it might be more optimistic than it is now.
Okay. No, I get it. I'm with you. I'm probably like a half a point more pessimistic about the defense, but I think as a whole, I'm with you. I do think there's a point where I don't think this is as good as the defense is going to be, but I'm not sure it's going to be as good as it was maybe like last season's in the year before. I think that's kind of like the barometer because at some point last year the defense was carrying the team, right? You can make the case maybe like the last couple of years the defense has been the one that kind of carry the team at times. So that was the expectation with the talent, and I'm not sure they're going to get back to there, but that doesn't have to be where they get. They won the Super Bowl defense created more turnovers, but they wasn't maybe as good consistently as maybe like last year's defense, for instance. So yeah, I'm with you, and I agree. Offensively, and I won't, I guess get your take on it. Like, I'm also interested in seeing like how they're going to approach things now, because I think there's something to be said about getting Mike touches. If I'm Sean, I'm force feed. If Mike is 100%, I'm force feeding him the ball at times, right? I want Mike motivated. You got to treat special players with special privileges sometimes. And if you need to give him the ball 15 times to make him forget about the fight, then give him the ball, right? He's Mike Thomas. You got to you get the greatness, you deal with some of the other stuff, right? But I also want to see like how they bring in, Sanders. I think it's important that he kind of picks up where he left off. I think getting Cook involved is like the most underrated thing that this offense needs to get done. So, what would you say offensively is like kind of like the priority there? Like, how would you approach it? Like in general, right? I'm just trying to get a feel for like what they're going to look like offensively when the whole crew is there, like just the offense.
I think that coming into this game, I would try to throw Mike the ball like 9 times if he plays. Like, honestly, I would. And look, he'd have to earn each target. He'd have to show, hey, the rust isn't there. I'm healthy.
Yeah, exactly.
You're throwing me the ball. I'm going to get you 7 yards, whatever. Like, if you do that, get him involved. I think you got to get him in the flow. I think if you do that, that does a lot to cure anything that's going on with the team.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I think you're at a point where, everybody's got to get the ball. And I don't know that you throw him the ball to the detriment of your offense, but like within the flow. Absolutely. And it's going to be within the flow. Like the way your offense is designed, he's getting open so quick.
Right.
He's going to probably be manned up against this guy, Carlton Davis again.
This guy.
Look, I gotta put more respect on. Like,
put some respect on his name.
He's really having a good season. He really is. Like he was good last year, but like he's real good this year.
Yeah.
That defense, he's in a great system. Like it's just he's really shining.
Bose is like ridiculous too.
Yeah.
Like that dude. He's gonna be a head coach again. I hope get him out the division because
he didn't get a fair shake.
He's the Jets. Like I don't. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. He didn't. He didn't. I would
like imagine having Adam Gase when you could have.
No. We went through this earlier today. I am not into.
Like we aren't even talking about like let's say neither one of them are And I think Bowles could be a good head coach. I really do. I don't think he got a fair shake. But like, let's just say like neither one. But like, you just have to pick a better offensive guy or a better defense, like a coordinator to be your coach, basically. Like you got Gase instead of Bowles. Like, come on, man. That's just
you fired Bowles for Gase. Like, you got rid of him and said, let me go and get this guy.
This guy that failed in your division got fired, and you were like, you know what? Like, we got to get rid of our guy.
Yeah, we need that. We need imagine.
Like the outcome's going to be so much. Ryan Tannehill looks like a top 10 quarterback.
That's the biggest. I mean, that's
Devontae Parker is like come on, but this guy is.
Yeah, that's a big turd on your resume. I'm sorry. You can't look at the Miami Dolphins and say that's the guy I want to be my coach.
And we need that program here.
That we need him to run it. Then
he's going to be the guy that finally gets us out of mediocrity.
Right. Listen, someone's going to get Sam Darnold, and they're going to get a steal. I mean, look at Ryan Tannehill. He got better after Gase. You know, if I'm the teams, I'm looking at Darnold and say, hey, man, I got a second here for you. Take a flyer.
Wait, are we sure that this isn't – the only reason I even know this play is because I watch Curb Your Enthusiasm. Are we sure this isn't like the play of the producers where, like, they set out to lose – like, to have a horrible play to lose money, to make money? Like, are we sure that isn't what the Jets are doing?
I don't put nothing past it. I don't put nothing past it.
Anyway, on topic, the Saints offense. Yeah, I mean, like, I would get Mike the ball as much as possible. And then I just think you let everybody settle in, and you – I think it flows fine.
You just play off it. Yeah. And Alvin is still, like, the best offensive player in the league right now. So –
and it's not like Sean wasn't game planning for him before. It's just –
that's true.
He's a bigger, like, I don't know. I guess getting these other players back, your like 3rd and 14 plan isn't, you know, just throw a screen to Alvin and hope he break 5 tackles because nobody else is getting open down.
Like throwing 8 yards instead of 5 now.
So things are going to open up a lot more. But yeah. I do think it is important to get Mike involved in the flow, and just I think you got to show him. I think you got to show him the level a little bit. I really do.
I'm with you. Yeah, I think, like I said earlier, he's a special player, and you got to give him special attention. And if that means getting him going, you know, a few targets, then so be it. So the Saints pass rush has improved recently. I would love to direct you guys to NewOrleans.Football. And there's an article about one specific player who is a big part of that. But holistically, you know, I think there's some reasons for optimism there. I think at times you see, like, Shy Tuttle has times where he looks like he's effective. You know, you have Trey Henderson, right? He's like for a third defensive end, you know, he's good. Ideally he's not your starter all year, but for a third defensive end, a rotational guy who can come in, start in a pinch, I think he's pretty good there. I think Onyemata is someone that I probably need to talk a lot more about, because I think that, you know, he's playing well. I mean, I think he's playing well. Cam is started to have some good games, and then Davenport is back. So with the D-line kind of, you know, they're playing better. You know, they're pretty good run defense for the most part. They have times where they have some leaky yardage, like a big run, you know, always seems like it happens, but then they kind of shut it down. But that group up front, how do you think how much do that group help this defense kind of get to where we were talking about earlier in the pod? Like, how do you think those guys are going to be like the catalyst? So maybe it's the secondary, right? Like, how do you see them playing a part in that?
I mean, they gotta play a part in it. The thing about the run defense and the 100-yard stat, somebody at some point needs to look at, like, how many, the average yards per carry, and not just 100 overall. It's just like,
I want somebody to actually, I was rooting for Montgomery to get the 100 so I could just quit hearing about it. I'm gonna be real with you.
I think it's a misleading stat. It's just like, your team's running enough. Is it effective? Like, is the offense, do they have to abandon the run? It's like the stat where people are like, oh, teams or the Saints are like 319-1 when they run the ball 30 times since 1974 or whatever.
They got a lead, man. Come on.
Right. So, like, I can't stand that. But yeah, I mean, I do think those guys have started to play better. I wonder if, like, losing Rankins plays an effect on it. Like, he did a few things, what I call sack assist. You know, he had one in this game with Davenport on a stunt. And that's kind of the stuff he does. And losing him might have an impact on it. But these guys are getting going. I thought the big thing in this game, you know, they got pressure without blitzing consistently.
Yes.
And they did the same thing against the Chargers too. The game in between those, I don't think it was against Teddy. He threw, he's getting the ball out quick. I don't think the pass rush was it there? Like it was kind of non-existent in that game?
At times, but not consistent. Yeah, a few plays here and there, but yeah, I'm with you.
So, yeah, I mean, I think we are seeing positive trends, though. And I think 2 out of those 3 games, Cam Jordan was pretty solid. It took everybody on the line a little bit to get going in this last game. But then it was like once they broke through, they broke through and there was a lot more consistent pressure. Late in the game, he showed up in big moments. I think he had 6 or 7 pressures overall. Like
I think Cam had 6 and Davenport had 7.
So it was a good game for both of them. They got to keep it going. I think Cam's got to keep stacking on that, but he's waking up and he's getting going a little bit. I don't know if it's nearly enough within the context of the previous games before this 3-game stretch. You're looking for signs of not being there instead of being there, and you're picking out bad moments instead of. So there's some confirmation bias at play, but I think if he keeps stacking games like this, that gets put away. But again, I'm watching it. I'm not convinced of anything, but the signs are there with a lot of things on defense starting to go the right way. Now they just have to keep it, going that way.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's fair. I think the pass rush can be the catalyst for the secondary starting to play better, right? That's kind of what I think. I think it's possible it can happen. It would have been nice to have Rankins there because I do think he gives you. I think he's still like your second best interior player, right after Onyemata at this point. And so, but I just think, and I've always said it, right? I'm a broken record, Kevin here, but when Davenport is healthy and playing, the Saints are just a much better defense, right? I just think, history shows that when he's not playing, then they're not as well and not as effective. So having him back, I think Cam is starting to kind of get going. I think Onyemata is someone to kind of keep an eye on. That fourth rusher, they do a lot of things with twists and stunts, right? I think Davenport that's one of his strengths. I think he brought that up, man, before the season, like about him maybe being able to go inside and also him being good, like moving laterally on twists and stunts and in gains and things like that. So that's played out pretty well. So those guys, I think if they start playing better, I think you're going to start seeing the secondary play better. And then from there, it's just, right, you just building on momentum, right? When does, Lattimore is guy, he can wake up any moment and decide to be the best corner in the league, or he can not, right? So that's something that Jenkins, right? Jenkins, I mean, he was outstanding in the last game last season against Minnesota. It was. And so, he had a good training camp. So, there's room to grow there. Marcus, we'll see. He could turn.
He's better than he's played.
Yeah. That's true. I think
he wasn't busting coverages and stuff last year.
That's the thing. The busted coverages, as a safety, you can't bust coverages. Like that's you gotta protect. But I think we've seen him do it, right? I think Malcolm Jenkins had a pretty good game last game.
He's real good.
Yeah, he was active, and so I just think there's things there's signs there and there's potential where those guys can get better. But I think the D line is going to be the catalyst there. So hopefully those guys get it going. All right, last topic. Ruiz, rookie center for the Saints, drafted in the first round out of Michigan. He started the last 2 games, because Easton has been out with a concussion. Easton practiced full today, if I remember correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong.
He'll be ready to play.
Okay. What do you think happens there, right? Do you think they go back to Easton, or do you think Ruiz, who, he had a game, and I'll let you talk about it. Do you think they kind of keep him in and run with the center?
I think that Ruiz had an opportunity, and I don't think that he closed the door on somebody coming back and taking that job. I just don't think that this game was tough. Like they have a really tough interior.
Yeah, that was like Team Hicks he was playing, and Coach Payton spoke about that. He was like, he battled, and that was a tough matchup. So yeah,
he did, but still at the same time, like he was the weak link on the line. The week before, I thought he played decently. but it's just been so inconsistent with him, and it's up and down. And you have a guy that's solid that you aren't going to have these variances with.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough to go with the player, even though he has upside and there's benefit to playing him now for payoff later. But you also have a 41-year-old quarterback who's listed on the injury report with a right shoulder injury.
Yeah.
Who you need to keep the pocket clean, who's at a point in his career where everything kind of needs to be perfect. And I think it needs to be more perfect on the interior than on the outside.
Yeah.
It's tough, man. Like, so if they wanted to keep going with Ruiz, I think it's justifiable. But like, if you don't, that's not a hard decision to make either.
Yeah. I'm with you. I thought the last game that he played against Carolina, I thought that was his best game. He played pretty well there. I think this game.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, this game, I think he had like 7 pressures. It was 6 or 7 pressures that he gave up. It was a lot. It was a lot. But, you know, I mean, like I said, Coach Sprayton brought him up and so, okay, I'm thinking, you know, how do they view this, right? Is he trying to keep the guy confident? Is he just, you know, Akeem Hicks is a tough matchup for anyone on the interior. But yeah, it'll be something to keep an eye on. I ideally you want the rookie to start, but if his best is an 8 or 9, and then, you know, but he's giving you 5 some games, then you just go with the 7, right? With Easton 6.5. So that's something we'll be keeping an eye on. So we'll see what happens there. So all right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure you guys go to NewOrleans.Football /subscribe. Pick a tier. I recommend Elite because why not be the best? Why not be in the cool club? So just pick the one that best works for you. Everything Nick wrote on the site. We spoke about some of the articles here. We spoke about Davenport. Again, Drew Brees' 2-minute article. Alvin Kamara. The new player that the Saints traded for, Kwon Alexander. Everything that we spoke about, it's on the site. Way more depth, way more in detail. Make sure you guys go there and check it out. As soon as you sign up, all the content is there. Make sure you follow Nick on Twitter at Nick_Underhill. You guys can follow me at Kevin Marsh Jr. Make sure you guys follow New Orleans Football on Instagram at NewOrleans.Football. With that said, thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week. We out.